Welcome into Minnesota Vikings Now. I am your host, RC Maxfield, and the Vikings lost a heartbreaker. Well, if you could call it a heartbreaker, it's the preseason. Who really cares about the results, right? To the Colts, 12-10. Well, Jake Browning got a lot of reps. He went 6 for 15 and 82 yards to lead the way in terms of passing for the Vikings. Ameer Abdullah had 6 carries for 35 yards, and then Chad Beebe, 2 catches for 47. Overall, the biggest storyline coming out of this one for the Skulls is, well, Kirk Cousins. But before we get there, one-word reaction to the Vikings' loss versus the Colts. Mine is just disappointing at this point. The offense just hasn't looked good through 2 weeks. Maybe that's just because of all the COVID issues they've been having to deal with at the quarterback position, but it seems as though those are getting resolved as Kirk Cousins is back under center for the Vikings. He went 5 for 7 for 23 yards. No TDs or interceptions, but it was just good to have Kirk Cousins back, right? I mean, having your QB1 back in action is a good sign, even if it is just in a meaningless preseason game. You want to get those reps for him that he hasn't had early on in camp due to being on the COVID reserve list. So having Kirk Cousins back, having some of the ones back as well, is a big step in the right direction for the Vikings offense right now in training camp. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to Vikings Today. It's your one-stop shop for everything Minnesota Vikings. And, hey, you know, the season's coming up right now. I mean, we are just around the corner. A fun offense with Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Kirk Cousins, and, of course, Dalvin Cook in the backfield. You're going to want to be kept up to date, and this is your place to do it right here on Vikings Today. So if you haven't already, hit that big red button and stay in the know on the Minnesota Vikings all season long. Speaking of one of the ones on the offense, Adam Thielen was back in action, and again, didn't have any production really in preseason week 1, but it is good to have him back out there and readily available for Kirk Cousins. Remember, last year he had 14 TDs, which maybe won't be sustainable this year, but again, good to have a guy like that back out there and getting those reps. Hasn't been going through a lot of practice. Now he's in the game for the first time, only played a couple series, nothing too meaningful, but at the same time, it is good to go out there, play with Kirk Cousins for 1 or 2 drives, and then go back to the sideline because, again, this first-team offense has not done a lot so far in camp. But the backup quarterback position might be headed in the right direction as Kellen Mond is back in action. He, too, was on the COVID IR list alongside Kirk Cousins and Nate Stanley. He went 6 for 12 against the Colts for 61 yards, also added 8 yards rushing. But you want to see Mond get those reps that he did miss that I mentioned earlier with Kirk Cousins. Just surely for the fact that you drafted him high, you want him to be implemented into this offense correctly, and just getting those reps in preseason games can go a long way. I think preseason week 3 will go a long way for Kellen Mond in the sense of building that confidence for winning that QB2 job that I think everybody had him penciled in for, but to everybody's surprise, Jake Browning has actually come out and really been a star in Vikings camp so far. But again, Colts, Vikings, Colts 12, Vikings 10. Results are meaningless in the preseason, let's be honest. We're just happy that nobody had a serious injury, but Jake Browning, again, leads the Vikings in passing, this time with 82 yards, and Ameer Abdullah is the star in the backfield, I guess if you want to call him that, with 6 carries and 35 yards. Looking ahead to the future, I want you to predict the score, as the preseason will be concluding, and the Vikings will be taking on the AFC champs and the Kansas City Chiefs. Who you got winning that one? Chiefs? Type Chiefs down in the comments, or Vikings down in the comments if you have the Skulls winning that one.